Hello, my name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm in charge of documentation at Alpha Software, and I am joined today by Chris Martin, solutions engineer and genius with Alpha Anywhere. Today, we are going to be talking to you about subthemes and some cool things I learned this week. Dave and Dion are not joining us, and if you joined us last week, Dion did claim that we were canceling the webinar this week, but Chris and I got the password and decided to do it anyway. So today's demo is going to be a little short. So if you have questions, definitely get them into the questions box in the control panel. You can also always send us your questions to guides@alphasoftware.com anytime during the week for us to address at future webinars. And just quickly, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It takes
All
me a
right,
minute
great.
because I'm
All right,
gonna
and you can
myself.
see my screen. Excellent.
I can see your screen. Beautiful.
All right. So today we're going to talk about subthemes. Right here on this screen, you can see multiple different versions of a button. These names that you see after the dot are called a subtheme name. So we have your base default out of the box buttons from the alpha theme that look like this, with slightly different colors for these screenshots. But we also have a number of other variations on the theme called subthemes that are available to you. You can also make your own, and we're going to go through how you can do that with your own web theme today. But before we get into that, I wanted to share some tips for working with JSON data in Xbasic. How many of you, by show of hands, have used Xbasic and JSON data? How many of you have done that in your apps or would like to? Let's go ahead and raise your hands. So a few of you, quite a few of you. Excellent, wonderful. So I have been doing quite a bit of work recently, working with the AccuWeather API and creating some really cool widgets with it. And one of the things I needed to do was extract just a single value out of some data that was returned from that API. And one of the functions I like to use to do that is called JSON path. It's an extremely useful for extracting a value or a subset of data out of a JSON object. And it's available in both Xbasic and JavaScript and uses the exact same syntax for specifying the data to extract. One of the things to know, though, is that when that data comes back to you, specifically in the Xbasic version of that function, the data comes back as an array, a JSON array. And so well, you might think that when you go to extract the value of like city from a JSON object, that you would just get back the string Boston. You don't. You actually get something that looks like this. It's got brackets on it. It's got some double quotes. And I found it a little bit annoying that I had to figure out how to remove this. So I wanted to show you some functions that I came across that have actually been around for a while that I found insanely useful for removing that information. So here I've got this JSON demo Xbasic script. And for those of you who don't know about this, you can create Xbasic scripts on the web projects control panel to put in test code, unit tests, whatever you want to do. I like to use it to write up stuff like this and save it for later to come back to for reference to see what I was doing, especially if I'm working with a REST API that might have a lot of really complicated JSON data that's returned. So I'll put sample data in here to work with it, test it out. But to create one of those scripts, on the Web Projects control panel, you can select this Xbasic option to filter by Xbasic, and then click New. And down here at the bottom, there's a Create a New Xbasic Script. And these are not published to the web. When you publish your application, they're stored strictly in the IDE. So they're a great tool to use for development purposes, trying to work things out with Xbasic, and also testing other things like any Xbasic function libraries you might create, or modules or classes, as well as just trying out new ideas. So I find them to be wonderful. I'm going to cancel out here and show you this one. So I have this demo JSON. This is a small sample of data that the AccuWeather API returns. And I want to get this location ID out of here, which you can see here has double quotes on it. And I'm going to use this JSON path function to do it. And I've got this selector here. I give it my JSON, and then I've got this selector here. And what it says is at the root $ in array item 0. So if we look here, this is actually an array, a JSON array. There's a bracket at the beginning. There's a bracket at the end. And the first item in this data is actually this object that begins with a curly brace and closing curly brace. And then inside of it are a bunch of properties, basically. So I want to get the location ID property out of here, which is right here. So as I mentioned before, you might expect or assume that you'll just get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 back. But when you run this, what you actually get is this bracket, open double quote, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, closing double quote, closing bracket. There are two methods that I've found that are very good at helping to remove that information. And the first one is called A5 unsquare. And what A5 unsquare does is it removes those square brackets off of the value. It removes the first one and the last one. So we'll run this again just to show you that that is what it does. So great, that removed those brackets off that value. However, I still have these double quotes to deal with. So another function that's also very, very useful to get rid of these types of characters is unquote. And that takes unquote just takes a string. It removes a quote from a string. Very simple, very basic. But just with those two functions, I was able to get the data down to what I actually needed. Now, JSON path is not the only function you can use to pull data out of a JSON objects. There are a lot of other ways to do it. We have the extension namespace, which has a whole class of methods to work with JSON, as well as a number of other ways to deal with it. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. If you're in a situation where you just need to strip off some square braces and some double quotes, that these two methods are available for you. So I'm going to paste this into that chat window so you guys can play with this here. And hopefully the chat window doesn't have any emojis in it. So that's for you guys. So before I move on from that, just did anybody have any quick questions about that? Let's see here. Oh, will remspecial work? I don't know. I've never tried remspecial. Let's see what happens. That's a good question. Ah, remspecial does work. So it does remove those values. One question I would have though is, does remspecial remove other symbols that I might want to keep? At which point I might want to not use that function. It does. So that could work if you know you don't have any special data, special values, symbols, I assume.
By the way, Sarah, I've lost my view for some reason of your demo. I'm sure everybody else is seeing it, but the question is, why don't you use the interactive window tab?
In this case, so I'm not using the interactive window tab in this case because I wanted to save this example. If I put it in the interactive window, which I did earlier to just sort of play with this, I could certainly do it that way, but then I would lose this example. The other thing to note too, though, is that when I ran this in the interactive window, that even though I was stripping off the unquote, even though I stripped off the quotes, it was still displaying quotes in the output, and I found that Shovar actually demonstrated exactly what I was getting back. So this interface is also good for working with Xbasic and trying to work things out. But for the purposes of today's demo and just in this particular use case, I wanted to have this saved so I could reference it later. Okay. So those were the things I wanted to show you, and we've learned a little bit of about remspecial today as well.
Okay.
So now we'll get back to subthemes. Can you see my screen still, Chris, or did you lose it?
Yeah, I can see it again now.
Okay. All right, great. So subthemes are a great way to create a reusable variation on the theme for a button, for an edit control, text box, text area, for a list, for a window, even for grids. And they are available for almost everything. There are a few control types that you can subtheme, but you can't set the subtheme for. And I believe the only outstanding issue is that our calendar control doesn't quite integrate it yet. But today I just wanted to go into the web theme builder and show you how to add a subtheme to an alpha theme. So we're going to do the live demo again. So some of you may be familiar with the alpha theme. It is a web theme that supports Sass, which extends CSS, and contains a number of concepts in it, such as subthemes, as well as inheritance. So what I'm going to do today is pick a different project that the alpha hasn't been overwritten in. So we'll just make a new project. Whoop, that's recent projects. File, new project, live demo. And now I'm going to open the web style builder. I'm going to go to system style, and I want to copy alpha and create a new local style. Local styles are always stored in a project. You may see here that says alpha amber global, see global style. Global styles are available for the entire workspace, but it doesn't extend beyond this workspace. You can't, like these won't automatically appear in other workspaces. You would have to copy them. But system styles, which is just styles we ship, can be duplicated to be edited, modified however you want to create your own theme. So we're going to start with alpha because that is the newest most recent theme that we've released that's up to date. And I'm going to copy it. I'm going to name it live demo. I'm going to put it in local. So it's only in this project that I've created. And this is going to open up the web theme builder. Now there is also a web style builder, and that is for editing our older version 2 styles. So your GR blue, your GR gray, and so on and so forth. Those styles do not inherently support Sass, and you cannot edit them in this theme builder because the structure of the CSS is different. Those ones embed the style name as part of the class names, whereas the alpha style, the Android light and dark themes just use class names such as button, edit, so on and so forth. So when the web theme builder opens, you'll either be here on the code tab or the adjust tab. It depends on whether or not you've been in here before and what it remembers last being open. The adjust tab is just a view of the entire theme, everything that's defined in it, all of the base subthemes, and then for things that might have alternate subthemes, those are also listed. So here, panel card has a base, an alt, which you can't tell but is 5% lighter, and a contrast where the background is white and the text is dark. On the side here in variables, these are a list of variables that we think you would like to edit without having to dig into code. So colors on the foreground and also the font family. Just a side note, when you're editing the font family, the first font listed is the one that's going to be used first, and then it will go down the line. So if you want to add a font here, you would want to put it on the front. And see here, it will update immediately. So everything is now using Times as opposed to Arial. That's where you want to insert your fonts. And especially if you're using fonts that may not be available on all systems, for whatever reason, maybe it doesn't support installing a web font. You want to have multiple fonts in that list to fall back on that you feel okay with showing up, just for consistency, knowing that your layouts are going to be more or less similar. The colors here, these are just a small subset of all the colors that are available, but and here you have things like header foreground, header background. You could use this color picker to pick a different one, and this will update immediately. So that header background affects this panel card base color, the alt color. As you scroll through here, you may see it in other places that it gets used in the disclosures. So that this is a good place to edit colors and sort of work out what some basic things. For more complicated things like changing the sizes of buttons or extending themes to include other stuff, you would go to the code tab. And before you can edit anything, you have to first select a part. So the theme is broken up into parts. There's a general part at the top that contains some basic information, such as the icon set and the default icons used for things like an error icon, a warning icon, navigation icon, drop-down icon. Those are set here in general. General is only available if you've copied a theme. If you are modifying a theme using a style tweak, you can't access this particular part of the theme. But everything else is certainly available, including the grid, the UX, and buttons, sliders, switch controls, etc. When you select an object, such as a button, you also have to select the active subtheme. By default, the subtheme will be base. Every single object has a subtheme called base. It's the one we load automatically, but you can choose from a number of other ones that we ship. Here we've got our confirm, deny, left, right, etc. That are different styles we've created for you. You can also extend these by creating your own, which is using this big plus button up here. And I feel that button is a little overdone in terms of a demo, so I was going to pick something harder. Let us look. What does window look like? Let's subtheme a window. Window doesn't have any subthemes. You can apply them to a window container control. So containers can have different types, and window is one of those types. So let's make a new one. No. All right, ignore that part.
By the way, Sarah, there was a question about how about global font size is the way to set up global font.
Local font sizes?
Global font size.
Global font size. Oh, to override the global font size?
Mm-hmm.
That is actually done in code. We don't have that on the adjust tab here. So it might be a good idea to expose it. Are they looking to just change the font globally?
Yeah, it just says how about, yes, there we go.
Okay. Yeah. Let's, I'm not sure if that's actually a physical property that you can edit or not. It might not. So I'm going to search for font size here. All right. It looks like font size is a variable that we've defined. We just haven't exposed it on that adjust tab. So what you could do, if you've copied the theme here and you're in here, is come in here and find that font size. Here we go, font size. So there's font size 16, font size SM, small, 12 pixels. You could change these variables and it would ripple through the entire project. Just as a side note, there's something called a C font size and a C font size SM. That's for the compact theme. And if you guys don't know this, the alpha theme has two modes. The mode that we're looking at right now in the adjust tab, where everything is quite large and you could tap it with your finger in a mobile environment. There's also a compact version, which is targeted towards your desktop web browser type mouse interface. And you can actually preview that theme here in the web theme builder by typing the word compact up here on the code tab into the wrapper class. And just for clarification, this just applies a class name to the preview. It doesn't change the theme at all. It just allows you to just look at this in a different manner, such as like you could say panel card here, and it would show you how everything would look if you placed it inside of a panel card. So I'm going to type in compact. This is the class that we apply when the compact theme is enabled in the alpha style sheet. And you'll see immediately already these icons got smaller. And if I go over to the adjust tab now, everything else here is smaller as well. The grid is now shorter. These text boxes are smaller. You'll see these headers are tinier. So there's two themes here. There's really the base theme, which is the default view, and then the compact theme, which is for mobile or for desktop browser environments where you have a mouse and a keyboard. But if neither of those modes are satisfactory for you, you can also come in here and just change this font size variable to make it smaller or larger as you need.
Yep, they were satisfied with that answer. We have another question: is if you make a copy of a system theme to change a small piece in the theme, when I update my version of software, will my copied theme be updated as well, but just not the part that I changed?
No. If you copy a theme into the project, so it's now locally stored, we don't touch that. We don't change anything about it. We don't try to make any assumptions about what you've done in there. So if we release an update to the system theme will be updated, but those changes will not propagate into the project theme. Now, if you just wanted to change a small part of the theme to get your look and feel but didn't care about the rest of the theme, like you just needed to make a few little tweaks here and there, you could use something that's called style tweaks, which are changes applied on top of the theme, and those are stored in the project or published to the project. You can also create an inherited theme, which says, I'm going to inherit everything from the alpha theme, which is actually what we've done with all of those colored themes, the alpha blue, the alpha rose. That uses all of the settings that have been defined in the alpha theme and then applies its own local settings on top of that. And one of the advantages of using that inherited theme as opposed to style tweaks is that it has a name. And then you can say, oh, I'm going to use my, I don't know, company A inherited theme on this UX component and my company B inherited theme on this UX component, published to two different places. It will use those two themes. They will work separately from each other. They won't conflict. If you wanted to just just tweak the alpha theme and then wanted to publish two different types of tweaks for two different UX components in the same project, all the tweaks live in one place. So you're going to have to figure out how to either create a bunch of classes to handle that case, or even just have separate projects where those style tweaks are stored separately. So that might be a situation where you would prefer to use an inherited theme. Does that sort of answer the question?
I hope so.
I hope so too. But yeah, no, we don't apply changes. But if there is something that is missing that we add to this menu, it will appear gray, and you can add it, and we will give you all of the settings here in this list that you need to update yourself. So I was going to look at subtheming windows.
And yes, you did answer the question.
Excellent. Yeah. So I just wanted to show how to use subtheme something like a window, which has a lot more stuff going on in it. but it also has some cool settings that we haven't talked about before. It has images. It has an inset value. It has direction. You could change the direction left to right or right to left, which swaps the side that um, the close icons are on. It has button defaults. It has resizer data, which is this thing down in the corner. It also has pointers. Pointers are shown if the window is opened from an object like clicking a link or a button, or even just anything really in your component that you've given an action to that opens a window, and the pointer points back at it, kind of indicating like where it came from. So you'll sometimes see that like pointing at an icon in the header, showing you like where this popped down from, kind of giving you a bit of like spatial awareness about how things are flowing. And it's just a nice little touch to add in some cases. So I've never sub-themed a window before, so this will be interesting. Anyway,
There was a follow-up question, is how
oh,
do you create an inherited theme?
I will show that after we do this.
Okay.
If there's time, we can answer that at the end. But I do want to go through this. So my advice to you guys, whenever you create a sub-theme, always copy an existing sub-theme if you've never done it before, just so that you can start with something known. So this is known, right? I know exactly what this looks like, and then I can play around with things to try to get what I want afterwards. If you start without copying a sub-theme, you will literally just get the HTML that we generate without any of the size and space information, and sometimes that can be really weird to work with because stuff will overlap and you're not really sure what you're looking at anymore. So to create a new subtheme, you need to click the subtheme button, ignoring this pop-up window that I just closed, and then do three things. Select the part that you want to subtheme, select the subtheme you'd like to copy. There will be a preview on the side, and then at the bottom here, you want to name your subtheme. So I'm going to start with window. I'm going to select base, which is what is previewed here. I'm going to call this one dark title bar. Excuse me. I'm going to create it. So this just created a new subtheme. It copied all the properties out of base, selected it, and is displaying it here on the left for me. It happened pretty quickly, but that's what's done. So when I click on this drop-down menu now, there are two. There's the base and dark title bar. Here, you may see here, window, dark title bar, class name. This is indicating what is selected on the current screen. You can actually use this to try to figure out where stuff is located over here. So if I wanted to know where that title is defined, I can click on it and then come down here and say, oh, title class name, direction, title location. I'm going to click on class name. Over here on the right, it's going to highlight class name for me. And that tells me where I can edit this to start making my adjustments. So I want to make the background on this dark, and I want to make the title text light so you can read it. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the code tab part here. I'm going to click just above the white part. If you click on the white part, it will shoot back to the top of the screen and you'll pull your hair out. So don't do that. We like you with hair. And I'm going to put a few extra lines here, and I'm going to come up with some classes that change the background color and the text color. So I'm going to create a new one called Title Dark, and as the preview wigs out on you while you edit down here, kind of just ignore it a bit. It's automatically updated as you edit things, and if there is an error in your CSS, such like a missing open curly brace or a missing closing curly brace, it just doesn't know what to do and falls over itself a little bit. So I'm going to make this new Title Dark. I want the text color, which is the color property, to be white. And I want the background color. Let's go with like a dark gray, so 777. If you don't know hex codes off the top of your head, you can right click and say insert color, and this will open the color picker. You can also insert a variable, and we have lots of color variables to choose from. So if you just wanted to have the same color, the same background color for color as everything else in the project, you could actually just come in here and pick something like for subtle color and fix up the CSS so it's proper. And that will use that variable for subtle color. Wherever it's defined, whatever that color is here. And should that change later, it will update automatically for you. And that was a nice dark color gray, so I'm going to use that. So I've created this title dark, and I want to apply it to this title. And I'm going to do it by adding the class name to window title for a title, which I found by clicking here after selecting it and clicking on title class name. If you click on this drop down arrow, it will open the class name picker. And here you can search through here, filter it by typing in a class name here, and then select what you want to add, and it just adds it. So just as a demonstration here, I'm going to remove window title, and you're going to see what happened. It got short. The buttons don't line up anymore. It has no more padding. It looks like nothing I want. So I'm going to add that back, window title. And I'm going to think, well, this should just work. So that is going to use the window title and the title dark. And I defined title dark way down at the bottom instead of at the top, because window title might have color information in it. It might set the text color to black. It might set the background color to white. I haven't gone and checked yet. I don't want it to do that. And the way CSS works is the last rule that is loaded wins in that situation. So if you put your new stuff at the bottom, it will be loaded last and will therefore be used. So that's an easy way to make sure that it's being used the way you want it to. So after picking those class names, I've got it. I'm going to close it, clicking the X way up here at the top. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to take a look at these buttons real quick because I would like to change them as well. Just so that you can see this X when it is unset. And I cannot read the rest of this. So I'm going to make this wider to see if I can find it. And close image. Let's see what close image is. Icon button. So that's the close image. It's using the alpha icon X icon, and it's got the icon class and the icon button class. Everything after that colon is class names, icon and icon button. I would also like that to use a white stroke for a fill on the X. So I'm going to hit cancel for now. And I'm going to go down here and create a new class name called title close button. And I'm going to define the stroke, just guessing right now, it's either stroke or fill. SVG icons have two properties for defining the colors in them. It's the stroke property and the fill property. This red one is definitely fill. Fills up an area, and so that's set to fill red. So I'm going to guess that the X is actually a stroke because that's just 2 lines. And then come back here and I'm going to type space and title close button. Hit tab. And that didn't do what I wanted it to do. So I'm going to have to figure out why. There we go. So it definitely has the class name there. But I'm going to go in here and investigate a little more. So this is called alpha icon X. So I'm just going to type the letter X in the filter and see if I can find it. And that's it. That is alpha icon X. I'm going to change the stroke color to white to see what changes. And that did not change it. So that indicates to me that it's actually the fill color. So we're going to make the fill color white to see if that changes it. And it does. So I'm going to hit cancel. I'm gonna cancel out of this guy and just go back here and change this back to fill. And there we go. Now it's white. So just a few little edits. I've now created a new window that has a dark title instead of a light title. There is certainly more we could do here. We could look at maybe making the fill, instead of it being red, maybe white, or even adding like a white border around it or something to make it a little less, it feels a little flat, like you can't really see the X in it very well. So I would want to tweak that a little bit more, but that is kind of where I want to go with this. So do I have any questions so far about creating this new theme?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So I've done that. I'm going to save it. I'm going to click the save button up here and hope that I don't get any error messages, and I didn't. That is great. And now I want to go and see if I can figure out how to apply that to a component. So I'm going to create a new component. I've gone back to the web projects control panel by clicking on the tab down here in the bottom. But if your view is not maximized, you can also just sort of click between them, or close it and come back here. But I'm going to create a new UX component. There are two ways you can do it. You can go through the new dialog, or there's this lovely handy drop down here that always remembers what you picked last. I'm just going to pick a UX. I'm just going with a basic. I'm not going to turn on the pulse effect. I'm going to resize this a little bit so it fits a bit better. And then I'm going to go to controls and create a new container. So I mentioned before, a container has different types, and one of them is window. Window container is a way you could create a window that pops up, has a bunch of controls in it that people can edit, but it isn't shown until Action JavaScript is run to open it. So we'll create a new window, and I'm just going to put a few controls in it. I'm going to put in a text box. I'm going to put in a drop-down box, and something fun. How about a view box that has that fancy map in it? I'm gonna load the fancy map. Image map. This is one of my favorite view box demos because it looks nothing like a box. So let's, before we do that, I'm gonna actually change this window back to just a regular old none container so we can see what we're working with and live preview it. So there's my text box, there's my drop-down box, there's my fancy view box. I love it. You mouse over things, you click on it, it shows you what country you clicked on. Fabulous. I do want these guys to be on their own separate lines. I have no idea why the pills are not rendering on these guys. Oh, because there's no break after them. That must be something new. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to make this guy a little bit wider. Make him 6 inches wider and like 5 inches tall, just so he has a little more space. And then I'm going to change this back to a window. And I hope I did not pick one of the few things that can't be something. All right, I didn't. All right, so window containers are defined in the window properties. And the window properties you see here are the same window properties you adjust in the Action JavaScripts to display a window. And one of those properties is subtheme. So that new subtheme we created should be available in here because I saved it. And it's not. So I'm going to hit cancel and cancel again. And I'm going to go over to properties because I forgot to do something. I forgot to select the new class the new style that I created for this demo that has that subtheme in it. So on the properties pane of the UX component under style name, I'm going to open that up. You can either click the dot way over here, or you can actually double click on one of these things. you can double click on the style name itself, and we'll open up the select style dialog. And if I go over here to local, I should find my new theme that I created, live demo, and that's the one I want. So I'm going to select that and click OK. Then I'm going to go back to controls, select my window, open the window properties, and then set the subtheme. And there it is. There's that preview. You see there's two in here. I want dark title bar, which is this guy down here. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to delete the window height and the window width so that the height and the width of the window is computed automatically from the contents of the window as opposed to forcing a size on it. That's a great way. If you know that your window has a small size, but you're not quite sure what it is, you can get rid of the height and width and it'll just work. If space is an issue and you do need it to be smaller, you can control that here. Fun fact, you can specify max 300 to say that it should not exceed a specific size. So I'm going to leave these blank. I'm going to leave the window title direction blank or as is, and scroll through here to see if there's anything else that I want. What is an optional window parts? No. Let's add a custom toolbar button. Let's add a close button in the toolbar. Label, action, action, close. All right, so the action will be close. That's a built-in action. There are others: refresh, minimize, restore, toggle, maximize, make it big, make it small, and custom, which would let you then call JavaScript, including action JavaScript, which you can create by creating a JavaScript action, which is a roundabout way of embedding action JavaScript in your code. But that is an option available for if you wanted to do something else like open another component or run a report, that kind of stuff. So we're going to click close and it'll be shown. And I am okay with all of those settings. And button bar inline style. I'm just going to accept the default and click OK. And then I'm going to come down here to other controls and I'm going to put a button in and I'm going to call it open window. And to demo this new interface for buttons, there should be a subtheme here, a subtheme list, but it apparently does not show yet. I want to use primary. Primary has a solid color. I like primary, so I'll just type primary in here and then click OK. And then I'm going to move it to the top so that it is outside the window container and will therefore be shown when the UX is rendered. So let's save this. We will turn pre-render on for this component only and wait. All right, so let's go look at full preview. There's our button. And when we click it, it doesn't do anything because I forgot to give it an action. All right, let's give it an action. Let's go down to the click for touch mouse pointer events. Please use this one and not the on click down here unless you absolutely know you have to use on click. You'll know it when that case arises. And let's add a new action to open a window. So add a new action. I'm going to type in window. And I'm going to say show container window and click OK. And the container ID is window1. Click OK. Add an optional comment and save it. And that's it for adding the open the window action. I'm going to save again. And go to full preview. It's my favorite mode. And now when we click this, our window should be displayed. So that's how you can sub-theme a window. I do notice that my CSS changes for that X did not come through, so I'm gonna have to investigate why that is. But that's how you can get started with modifying windows to look differently. I'm sure you guys are really well acquainted with buttons, but we do have subthemes available for a bunch of other things, so I highly encourage you to check it out. And then down here, there's our close button. If we click that, it will close the window. So do I have any questions?
Just the continuation of how do you create a inherited theme?
An inherited theme. Good. Thank you for the reminder. Okay, let's go back. There is exactly one place you can create an inherited theme, and it is in the web theme builder, but the only way to open the web theme builder is to open a theme and edit it. So it's a little convoluted to get there, but under the file menu, there's an option to create a new copy of an existing style. And when you select that option, one of the options down here is create inherited, and that will create a new inherited theme. So inherited, as I mentioned before, is it overwrites the base theme. These ones here, the alpha, amber, aqua, blue, blue 2, those are all inherited from alpha. They all overwrite the alpha theme, but they load that alpha theme from the system and then apply their own changes on top. So I will select alpha here, and I'm gonna see if I can do a live demo inherited. I'm gonna inherit locally, and I'm gonna click the create inherited button and not the create copy button. And up here you'll see now this is live demo dash inherited based on alpha. And so immediately you should notice a few things. One, there's no code down here. This is completely void of code. That's because all the code is in the alpha theme. It was not copied over, so that is all still over there. The adjust tab, however, has all the things in it. It has those variables and the preview, which is inherited from the alpha theme. You also have the map, but all the parts are blank, and you also note that general is no longer available up here. So these are the only things you can do. You can add sub-themes. You can add class names here. If you know the class names in the base theme, you can overwrite them here. These changes will be applied after the fact. So if I wanted to go back to that live demo theme and edit it create it as an inherited theme instead of copying the alpha theme, what I could do is instead, oh, I'm in the wrong one there, window demo. Go to properties, with live demo selected, come down here, say edit in style builder. This will open the theme in the style builder. It's actually called the web theme builder. But now I've got two of them open. There's my live demo and live demo inherited. I'm going to come down here to the very, very bottom. I'm going to copy out these two guys here, title dark and close button, even though we determined that close button wasn't working quite right. I'm going to paste them here. And then I'm going to recreate that window subtheme like I did before. The difference this time around, if this is grayed out, when you click on it, it will open up the create subtheme builder and automatically select the part that you clicked on and then gets you straight to the subtheme to pick from. I'm gonna pick that base again. Did I call it dark title? I forget. Yeah, we'll create a new one, call it dark title. And then come over here and say title class name space title dark tab. There we go. And then close button space title close button and hit tab. So that's my new theme. It's here. This is all the code I've added. When I go and look through the window parts, the total parts of the theme, the only one that you're going to see here listed is window. If I save this, I can go back now to window demo, and instead of saying I want to use live demo, I can open this up and select inherited. And you'll notice some stuff changed here. There is no access to the style tweaks feature when you're working with an inherited theme. That's because the inherited theme itself is actually a style tweak. It's just got a name and you can apply it to any number of components. There may have been a few other properties that aren't available in here as well. You do have edit style builder, you do have the compact theme and the pulse effects. Those can be turned on here. These are only available if a class name named compact and a class name named pulse are in the theme. It might even be also only if it's based on the alpha theme, but this is now using that live demo inherited, and I'm going to go over to controls real quick and edit my window just to make sure that the sub theme that was in here, I changed its name. I'm going to change it over to the one that's in our inherited theme, so dark title. Click OK, OK, and save it. Some things to know, some caveats about the Sass themes, the new web themes that we have. Because all of the class names in the style sheets are generic, they're button, icon, etc., and they don't do something like integrate the class name into the, or integrate the style name into the class name, you can't actually include two components in the same window and have them inherit from different versions of the alpha theme because of the way CSS works. Whatever gets loaded last, all of it will use it because it all has the same class names in it. So that's something to just keep in mind working with these new themes. There are ways around it. Iframes is one of those ways. Iframes are also notoriously not responsive, so you have to pick and choose your battles about what you want to do. But in that case, maybe it would be better to just sub-theme what you want and then apply the sub-theme at the UX level. Any other questions?
Not on the subject. There is a question about sending notifications to a smartphone when the phone has a locked screen based on updates in the database. I might have to have that one sent to, is it guides, the address to send the question to, and we can get back to them.
Yeah, that would be great, actually. Send that one over to guides, GUIDES, at alphasoftware.com.
I mean, we have ways of doing notification using components like push whoosh and things like that, and that might also be a good topic to have as a demo.
Oh, for sure.
Is next week's still on, or is it?
I think next week is canceled.
Okay.
But so was this week.
Yeah.
But the notifications went out anyway because nobody canceled it, so we decided to have the meeting for you.
If I have time, maybe I can come up with something for that question on push notifications and how to use them. If we have time, and then we can continue. Otherwise, we'll do a cancel.
Otherwise, we'll do a cancel. Yes, Dave should be back soon. He has left Massachusetts. How dare he? And then Dion, we don't even know where he is. He's just disappeared. He sent us a photo of some lions earlier, apparently in London or something. So I don't know where they are. I don't know when they'll be back, but they left us all the passwords, and here we are.
That was awesome. So far, no more questions.
No more questions.
You can cut out a little early if you like.
I know, we've got 7 minutes left, or we'll just end it now if there are no more questions out there. Feel free to ask anything about Alpha Anywhere.
Okay, there's something. I'll get my glasses on.
How about
tweets?
How about them? All right. Yeah, we got 6 minutes. Let's go back in that window demo and let us change it back to alpha so that we can take a look at this style subtheme and CSS tweaks property. So tweaks, as I mentioned before, are stored as a project and they override the style name and typically only used with the system style. You can use them with your own local styles it gets weird when you go to edit it in the web theme builder because sometimes it wants to load the tweak and not your base style. So you can run into a few strange situations there. Other than that, that they're more or less compatible. But a tweak is just so it's either a subtheme or some CSS that you've added to the project that overrides the style that you're using. So in this case, if I add a subtheme and a CSS style tweak, it's going to do it for the alpha theme. It will only do it for the alpha theme. It will not add the tweak for anything else. So let us add the classic orange class that I love creating in like every single demo I do. And we'll just say orange, background orange. And I'm going to click OK. And now that has been saved as a style tweak. At this point, if I go in and say edit style in style builder, it will open the style builder with that tweak. It will say up here alpha tweak, and there is my orange background orange. The stuff I added in that dialog is a style tweak. In addition to that, any changes made on the customized style colors and fonts are also considered style tweaks, as are selecting color palettes, because those properties affect the style globally throughout the project, not the workspace, just the project. But that style tweak, editing it at this point after you've tweaked it is exactly the same as editing an inherited theme. I could come in here and say I'm gonna just for repetitiveness, I'm gonna add those class names here, that title dark, title close buttons. I'm gonna select the part down here. I'm gonna go pick my window. I'm gonna say it inherits from base. I'm just gonna call it title dark because that's what we called it in our inherited demo. I'm gonna click create. I'm gonna select the title, click on the class name, add my title dark class, and I'm gonna skip the button for now. Oop. Let's see here. Sometimes it doesn't want to give up. There we go. I'm gonna save this, go back to window demo. It's using the alpha theme now. If I preview it, it should just use that dark theme that I added. And when I open it, oh, it didn't. Let's go figure out why. Because I called it title dark, didn't I? I've renamed it 3 times in a row. There we go. Okay. Okay. Let's make sure that we saved this as well. We did. I'm going to save it. So it re-renders the component. Go back to live preview. And there's our dark window title again. So that's a tweak. Just so you know about this, on the Web Projects control panel, if you click this folder to open the project folder, in here you'll find a CSS folder. And inside there is a style tweaks folder. And inside there we will find an alpha folder. So if a folder exists in here inside the style tweaks folder with the same name as the theme, it has a style tweak. These are the files that were generated. That's my styletweaks.json. Everything is in that JSON file. Please don't edit it by hand unless you absolutely know what you're doing. It's really easy to accidentally forget something and then it stops working. But if you find that you don't want the style tweak anymore, or it's getting in the way of something, like maybe you've copied it at this point, so in addition to having the style tweak, you also have a folder in here called alpha that you've created a copy of the system theme and left it exactly the same name. You can come in here and you can just select that folder and just delete it, and that gets rid of it. You can always undo if you just do a basic delete. If you do a shift delete, I think Windows deletes it permanently, but that is how you can get rid of those style tweaks if you don't want them anymore. So if we go in here now and preview it, it shouldn't load dark anymore. It should just be a regular old window, and it is. So that's the style tweaks in a nutshell.
Awesome.
And we're at time.
Yeah, it looks like we've run out of time.
We've run out of time.
Yeah, we've had a few more questions come in, but I'm gonna grab a screenshot of the questions. But you could also send the questions that we haven't gotten to the guides@alphasoftware.com, and we can get back to you there. But I got a screenshot. A few more questions came in, but we're now out of time.
All right, definitely send your questions to guides, and we will we'll give them to Dave and Dion to deal with on Wednesday next week if they're back. If there is a webinar next week, I don't think there is. I think it's been canceled.
Okay,
But we'll see.
sounds good. Awesome job.
Thank you, and thank you all for attending today on our secret not canceled webinar. And we'll see you next time.